Wendy, if you can hear me, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you, but you look great. So I'm not quite sure what it is. Hey Wendy. Hey Ogama. Can you guys can hear me? I can't hear you. So I can keep talking. Thank you. I can hear myself, which is really just kind of distracting, but I'm glad to be here. I was just gonna try to turn on the radio, and so maybe I thought maybe I could hear that. But I feel kind of weird doing just a monologue, but it's great to be here. Nice to see you both. Thanks for having me. And I had just talked about a couple of things to talk about tonight. One of them
is right. We have about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. But that would be okay, Ogama, if you could get Robert Lilligren on the phone and we can just hear.
Okay, yeah, they're gonna get him on the regular phone, I guess.
2 minutes, we can go to break, and when we come back, we can listen to Robert then.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely. Robert Lilligren.
Yeah.
Can we hear you, Robert? Why don't you go ahead and say something?
This is so ridiculous. So
you can hear us, but I don't know if we can hear him. Robert, can you say something?
I can barely hear you. You can hear me. I can barely hear you.
All right.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, sometimes this happens. Even when I watch NBC,
All right.
or I watch,
Bye.
CNN.
Yeah,
They
okay.
have technical difficulties too. So
All right.
I'm just going to
Bye.
go with the flow and have technical difficulties, and hopefully we're going to go to break here soon. Just have to keep talking for another minute and 32 seconds. So you can jump in anytime you want, Ogama. So
Yeah, I got another event that Bob Blake talked about yesterday. Next Saturday, March 27th at 10 a.m. is Be It Resolved, We Declare Climate Emergency. And that's going to have Robert Blake, Dr. Sam Grant, Patty Acomb, and Jamie Long. And it's going to be a forum talking about the climate emergency that we are definitely in and people don't want to talk about. So check out the link on Facebook for the Zoom to join in on that one.
Wow, that's excellent. Thank you for that. The music is coming up nice and slow. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake. I've been your host today, Wendy Pilot. I'm in for Robert Pilot. He's in a meeting, and of course, everything's going wrong. But I have wonderful Ogama here holding down the ship. And we're just going to chat. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the apes being vaccinated when we come back after this break. And we will be back here, Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake. Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Works St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986. I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are the Calusa Nation.
And we're back. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I am your host today, Wendy Pilot. I'm in here for Robert Pilot. He's probably glad he's gone because it's just been a disaster today. But what can I say? We are waiting, and we have, I think, hopefully, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, Robert Lilligren. He is the director of the Native American Community Development Institute, NACDI, in Minneapolis. And are you with us right now, Robert?
I can hear you, Wendy. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. There's a little bit of an echo, but that's okay.
We're good. We're good.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
before when you couldn't hear us, Ogama and I were talking about Deb Holland and her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was sworn in today, and I was telling Ogama, and I wanted to get your thoughts on her beautiful wearing the traditional Native American skirt and her moccasins, and what that kind of like means to the Native American community.
Thanks for asking, and sorry about all that sound weirdness and stuff. I'm glad I'm on, and thanks for having me, Wendy and
Glad you're
Ogama.
here
Great to be here.
too. Glad you're here
I'm
too.
glad we got you in before the end. I'm so happy to hear your voice, Robert.
Oh, I'm happy to hear yours too. So yeah, it was beautiful, wasn't it? Not just Secretary
Yeah.
Holland, but her family. The women in her family were in ribbon skirts as well,
Mhm.
and it's so beautiful. It's so empowering. It reminded me of being at the inaugural for our Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, and then at the sort of inaugural ball. And remember, we took a picture of all these women, and maybe you were there, Wendy or Ogama, that we're all in ribbon skirts,
Yeah.
and it just
You
does
know, and
something
I
for you.
Yeah. Everybody knows that I am not Native American, but I am an ally, and I was given a Native American name, Hanajihihani,
Oh,
by
beautiful.
our elder in our family, Curtis, which I always thank him for, and a woman who I know who's Native American gifted me a ribbon skirt. So I have two different ribbon skirts that I wear, which really, really mean the world to me,
Wow,
honestly.
Wendy,
Uh,
you got more than me. I think I only have one.
so yeah, so
Yeah, I have
cool.
a
And
purple one and a red one. Yeah.
in South Minneapolis here, I live right on Franklin Avenue, and of course, our office is on Franklin Avenue in the same building. Powell Grounds Coffee Shop, all my relations' arts gallery is in. And this one day, I got on the bus here, and two women got on wearing ribbon skirts. It was like 8 in the morning, and these two women. I was like, oh, that just makes me feel so good. I took a picture of them where you couldn't really see them posted on social media. I'm like, I just love riding the number two. When there's women in ribbon skirts,
Yeah.
it's so good to see yourself represented.
And today with her being sworn in, I could just imagine all the wet eyes and the emotion of,
Mm.
so many people in the United States, especially Native American people seeing that.
Yeah, here. It's the whole confirmation process, right, has been uh, really engaging Native people. It's just a whole different day. And you had your little ID there from Representative Sharice Davids as well. And it's a game changer. And even in sort of in the online world, a few years ago, if you would uh, search for Native American images, the first 90 or so images that came up were all from before 1915, which just kind of reinforced that narrative that Native people are not contemporary, not relevant to today. But since things like Sharice's election, Deb Haaland's election, our lieutenant governor's election, now when you Google Native American images, those are the things that you see, which
And
I
that's
think
the
is
things
just
that
so
we should
refreshing.
be able to see. Yeah.
Right,
That's what we
right,
should see. Yeah,
right.
absolutely. So in your neck of the woods, in Minneapolis, Franklin Avenue, that area over there, how has the trial of the former officer Derek
Whoa.
Chauvin been affecting that area?
It's so
How has it?
interesting. We're
Mhm.
right down, just south of downtown, just a few blocks. The American Indian Culture Corridor on East Franklin is pretty close to the courthouse and all of those relevant public buildings. And so, we're seeing what everyone's seeing with the board ups and the barricades and things like that. But the cool thing that's happening, Wendy and Ogama, is that the community's coming together. And last summer during the unrest following George Floyd's murder, the community came out, the protectors, organizations like American Indian Community Development Corporation, AIM, the Little Earth Protectors are just amazing. They're out every night year round. So all of the protectors have come together. We're doing collaborative planning for whatever might come through this trial. We're seeking resources collaboratively to support these efforts. We have more time to plan, than we had last year. And I got to tell you, it's just been really heartwarming, the high level of collaboration, the high level of trust, the high level of respect amongst these really varied groups of people who are coming together to protect the community. And they're groups that don't always trust each other, and so it feels so good. It feels like we're really indigenizing the way we come together. We're respecting each other's roles, what each other brings. So that's something that will sustain beyond whatever happens with this trial.
Yeah. And they had, I think, 6 jurors, and now they dismissed a couple because of the $27 million that was awarded to the family. And, they went back to the jurors and asked the jurors about, what they felt about that money and what it meant. So they had to get rid of 3 jurors. So I think it's going to take longer and longer to find these 12 people who are going to be able to, um, you know, uh, not have any preconceived notions and who will be, you know, good jurors. And I just feel like this trial is going to drag on for a really, really long time. And I hope that the Native American community and the people in that area are not going to be affected by this for so long.
Right, right. Well, it does affect you, right? I mean, it just kind of wears on you. It's re-traumatizing, re-triggering. I know they added a couple more jurors back in, so they're kind of moving forward, but
Mm.
just the idea that could be delayed through this process, that
Yeah.
that can anger people, that can trigger people. It's just a whole nother dynamic to deal with here. And so whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and we need justice here. So I hope it keeps moving along at
Yeah.
at a pace,
I
a
wish we
decent
could have
pace.
you I wish we could have you on longer. We have about a minute left, but I wanted you to tell our audience about the community arts project. Is there a
Okay,
community arts project?
yeah, there is the around the Wall of Forgotten Natives, folks might know it by
Uh-huh.
that name. It was this really large encampment that sprung up right in the American Indian Cultural Corridor, right off Franklin Avenue in Hiawatha in South Minneapolis in the fall of 2018. And it was huge, and it was a game changer here for the community. It really elevated awareness of the issues that a lot of our relatives are struggling with, raise the issues in the broader population. And so now the Minnesota Department of Transportation has taken this very seriously, and they're trying to figure out what to do with that land. They control it, the Wall of Forgotten Natives. And so they've engaged our organization, our All My Relations Arts Gallery, to work with the community to put a wrap around the fence that expresses our community sentiments around housing and things. And then hopefully we'll convene for a longer design process about what the permanent use of that land is, medicine gardens, things like that. But it's really encouraging that Minnesota Department of Transportation has realized something important happened there, and they just can't go forward as if it didn't.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much. Robert, thank you so much for being on today. I am so sorry about all these technical
Please don't
difficulties.
apologize.
We're going to have to give you another day. I would like to
All
end with
right.
these thoughts. If you've been listening to this show, you are the resistance. From Chief Plenty Coops, the ground on which we stand is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, and run for office. You've been listening to
Yeah.
Native Roots Radio. I'm awake.
Hi, I'm Claire Ferreira, president and owner of
Am I done?